In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. The historian Arnold Toynbee stated in his 12-volume study of history that all past civilizations and empires went through a cycle of birth, growth, maturation, and finally disintegration. He states that nothing can stop a civilization from eventually disintegrating. Nothing can intervene to reconstitute a civilization that has died or disintegrated. Another historian, Oswald Spengler, argued the same thesis in his book, Decline of the West. He stated that all civilizations have their birth, springtime, summer, and winter. Then, like all life forms, they die. But one burnt-out forest gives rise to new ones. The fundamental life principle perpetuates itself through new forms in time. Now, we are participating in a facsimile of the Western European empires, which, according to some historians, have been an image of the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire. Western European empires combined have lasted now about 572 years. The 124 years of U.S. dominance included. But now, by every measure of national power, Western Europe is no longer an empire. Western Europe has bit the dust. That leaves the United States standing alone. The United States has long passed its growth phase and is now struggling just to stay stationary or stable. The average length of time for any empire is about 296 years. The United States has been an empire for about 124 years, as I stated, but American power, represented by the strength of the dollar, is now declining in value as the global currency weakens, just as was the case with all other European currencies since the Portuguese Empire to the British Empire and its pound sterling. The United States is now the premier empire on earth. It is a derivative of the British Empire in many, many, many ways. However, the United States is now being challenged by China. China is not an empire, but it is a nation of over 1 billion people. That's 12% of the global population. Since 1949, just 73 years, it has arisen against all odds to competently compete with the United States' economic power due to economic blunders by U.S. politicians in their relation with China over the last 73 years. Asia is growing. China is the nucleus of Asia, as the U.S. today is the nucleus of Europe. Now, here's what we have to also keep in mind. Russia may become the nucleus of West Asia and parts of Africa because of its vast agricultural power and its nuclear umbrella. This is not the first time the United States has been challenged for global supremacy. Germany and Japan once challenged the Anglo-American empires. What settled those challenges was World War I, followed by the first nuclear war, World War II. Tens of millions of people died as the elite battled each other for world economic and symbolic supremacy. It's not a new phenomenon. Bronze Age empires competed and warred against each other too. So did medieval empires. If they had had nuclear weapons, none of us would be here today. Many nations today have nuclear weapons. They were used in World War II, remember? So it is reasonable to expect that given the identical human nature passed on from one generation to the next, rather than surrender to a second or third tier position on the global hierarchy, the U.S. elite will use nukes. Have no doubt about that. The end of World War II gave rise to the dollar as the global trade currency. The dollar was then based upon a gold and silver standard. All nations traded in dollars, as they do today, except for a shift that is taking place. Now, since then, the US dollar and coinage have been debased several times, first from the Nixon shock when silver and gold were removed as the standard in 1971. In their stead, the US dollar was based upon price fluctuations of a barrel of oil. That would eventually make the dollar increasingly unstable. Now, today, the dollar is simply fiat money, printed at the whim of government. Nothing supports it. The U.S. debt is over $3 trillion. The dollar fluctuates with the stability of the nation's supply and demand for goods and services. It's a roller coaster, a real roller coaster ride with highs and very low lows, as is the case today. When you go to the store and you want to buy ground beef, for instance, it would cost you for a 0.7 pound package of ground beef about $8. Now, at the end of World War II, the United States set up what is called the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, SWIFT. Now, they did that to facilitate digital money exchange between central banks in most nations. Now, China has set up a competing interbank financial telecommunication system. Now, China and Russia will use the Russian ruble and Chinese yuan, their own currencies, in exchange for goods and services with nations like India. Now, what is going on also today is that the Federal Reserve Bank is increasing interest rates to a higher level, as was in the past, because inflation is out of control and eating away at the value of the dollar. Everyone knows that when they go shopping for groceries. Remember, the dollar is not based upon the more stable values of gold and silver. So that in affecting both supply and demand in thousands of markets, as I said before, that is the foundation of the dollar's value today. Supply and demand, which is whimsical, which is very much in many ways unpredictable. So the value of your dollar on a daily basis is unpredictable too. The inflation rate as of December this month is 7.1%. Prices for goods and services are going up as the purchasing power of the dollar is decreasing in daily value. And the quality of life for 80% of Americans is eroding right before our eyes, as observed in rental costs in cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Oakland, and throughout this nation. Sometimes rents are as high as $3,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. Historically, whenever an empire was challenged for world dominance, war inevitably followed. Empires rose and empires fell. For instance, the Assyrian Empire of the Bronze Age attacked the ancient Egyptian Empire. The Persian Empire attacked both the Assyrian Empire and the ancient Egyptian Empire, conquering both of them. Then the Greek Empire attacked and conquered the Persian Empire and Egyptian Empire, later only to be conquered by ancient Rome, the ancient Roman Empire. And the beat of the various 20% elites the beat goes on from one generation to the next. They come and they go. There's a definite pattern to the waxing and waning of empires and civilizations for the past 6,000 years. That's why the study of history is so important. The war between NATO and Russia that is going on now by proxy in Ukraine portends global thermonuclear war between Russia, China, and the United States. Other nations, of course, with nuclear weapons will be drawn in, and they will be destroyed. All that will take place between now and 10 years. Or, in order to keep peace, the United States will have to accept its new place below the top of the global hierarchy in a multipolar world. Now, the question you may have is, what can you do? Well, my answer is rock steady on your square. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.